Welcome to Cut Daisies and Unicorns, and we are on Season 7, Episode 3, 73. 73 is what we're at, and this is where we're at in the studio. Sun is shining today, so it's a thing that I enjoy when the sun comes out.
The sun will come out tomorrow. Well, and you know what? Man,
we don't know about tomorrow.
Yesterday was bleary and dreary. I'm like, I have got to get on my vitamin D regimen. Yeah. And I could even tell yesterday, I'm like, to quote Game of Thrones, winter is coming. And I'm like, I'm going to have to make some deliberate decisions about not getting my head tanked. Mm-hmm. And just like... And people are like, well, I mean, like, yeah, big, like an oil tanker cavernous hole that you would stick your head in, versus the dunes of sand that an ostrich would do to avoid. Yeah, I'm just like, man, I have got to be proactive.
Yeah.
I mean, not just like and then it was cold and dreary and rainy, and usually that's my gig.
Yeah.
I'm like, whew, early. Seasonal onset. Oh man.
Yeah.
Gonna have
seasonal depressions.
Yes.
Hey, why don't we bring you up on camera so everybody gets to see your pretty face?
There you go. All the prettiness. Here we are.
There he is.
Yeah. Hey, way to catch that detail.
Yeah.
They were hearing my voice and seeing your face and saying,
that's right.
It's kind of weird. What's going on here?
Right. I only see nobody's talking, but I hear somebody talking. Yeah.
Well, I just wanted to come back to the whole idea that it is Season 7, Episode 3, 73. I said I figured I probably could tell a story about every number.
Right.
And I like 73 because it is a direct relationship to my favorite combination of the two numbers, which is 37.
Yeah.
But, for those who are into numerology, and I don't know if it has any significant meaning, but I was thinking to myself, hey, self, 1973 was a good year. Or was it?
I don't even know.
So, President Nixon was inaugurated for his second term.
Oh.
2 days later, his predecessor, former President Lyndon Johnson, suffered a heart attack and died. In that same 72-hour period, the Supreme Court ruled a landmark case, Roe v. Wade, which affirmed a woman's right to have an abortion. Mm-hmm. Wow, that's a lot of info. And, so a lot of things were going on in the year 1973. And so just wanted to let you know that if you weren't alive, then apparently something there must be, like, because we're not very far away from 2023.
Yeah, we're not.
So if the math is right, there's a 50-year cycle going on. Mm-hmm. So Roe v. Wade was overturned in 22, right? Okay. Yeah. Inflation tripled from 3.4 to 9.6 and put an end to post-World War II economic extension.
Yeah.
Hey, that's kind of crazy because we were just talking economics and how the inflation hit in the last 12 months. It hit like 8.9% inflation. Wall Street was in a bear market. Stagflation presented a dilemma to the U.S. economic policy. General Motors, Ford, and Chrysler laid off 100,000 workers. I'd be really interested on what was going on with gas prices. U.S. unemployment was 5.6. The average family income in 1973 was $12,900. Whoa.
Wow.
And the cost for a new house cost around $32,500. The retail price for a gallon of gas averaged 39 cents, and a minimum wage was $1.60 per hour. And an ounce of gold cost $106.48. These are economic bars of things to look at. Where were we at 50 years ago, 1973?
Yeah.
Wow, a lot can happen in 5 decades.
It's true.
Apparently. Eggs were 69 cents a dozen. Oreos were 59 cents for a 19-ounce package, and peanut butter was 99 cents for a 2.5-pound jar.
That's significant.
Here's a flash from the past. Most popular TV shows: All in the Family, The Waltons, Sanford and Son, MASH, and Hawaii Five-O. Now those are none of the remakes, kids.
Right, those are the originals.
These are the originals. They have not done a remake of All in the Family or The Waltons. Yeah, but Hawaii Five-O.
Yeah, they did remake that.
10 cool food and beverage trends for the year. Number 1 on the list: carrot cake.
Carrot cake. That was a trend in 73.
I guess, you know, well, it was probably with the advent of Philadelphia cream cheese and like making the cream cheese frosting.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess eating carrot cake is good for your colon.
Is it?
I don't know.
I don't know either. I mean, carrots are good for eyesight, carotene. Right?
There you go.
So
apparently, crepes were a trend.
Oh.
Yeah.
In 73. Wow.
Okay. Number 3, one of my faves.
Yeah.
Deviled eggs.
Oh.
Eggs with horns.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
What makes an egg deviled?
It's like Miracle Whip and...
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, I know how to make when did the advent of the name came from? You know, that they're like, oh, these are eggs that we're taking the yolk and we're, turning it into, a whatever's on the, I mean, I don't know. How is it they get to the name? Oh, these are deviled.
Yeah. Evil eggs.
Right.
Yeah.
So they're just like, ooh, these are dangerous. I could eat the whole thing. I mean, there's probably some protein in the deviled eggs, along with, I guess the mayo would bring some fat. Or I guess Miracle Whip. I don't know. I don't eat Miracle Whip, so.
Well,
I stay away from Miracle Whip.
So
they say it's a miracle, but not to me.
Yeah, the term deviled egg comes from the 18th century culinary term that the Oxford Dictionary originally used to describe a fried or boiled dish that was highly seasoned. And this was eventually used to also include spicy condiment-filled dishes as well. It was eventually used to describe eggs. Oh, really?
Oh, really?
So... Google's awesome. So what do Christians call deviled eggs? Are you ready for this?
Yeah, let's do this.
In some regions of the South and the Midwest, deviled eggs are also called salad or dressed eggs when they are served at a church function.
Salad eggs?
To avoid the term deviled.
I mean, egg salad can be good. I mean, just in and of itself. I mean, I guess egg salad's kind of like a deviled salad. Sure. Yeah. I mean, it's kind of deviled egg, except you're chopping it all up. So, it's fascinating.
What do they call deviled eggs in England? It says, however, as American as they may seem, they did not originate here, and they exist in other varieties in different nations. As an example, these tasty treats are referred to as deviled eggs in the UK, and as dressed eggs, eggs mimosa, stuffed eggs, angel eggs in other parts of the world. Oh yeah, here's another great question. Somebody thought up. We kind of covered that. What do Mormons call deviled eggs?
So we're just going to add all the world religions. And what do they call deviled eggs?
Yeah. Stuffed eggs, dressed eggs, or salad eggs. Yeah.
I've never heard salad eggs before.
Yeah.
I've heard of egg salad, not salad eggs.
So, I guess.
So when you're making deviled eggs, do you do the paprika on the top?
I have a smoked paprika, and I use that in a lot of different things. Yeah.
Yeah.
Angel eggs are simply another term for the classic deviled egg.
Of course.
It's the same creamy
Devils
yolk
and
filling in the center of an egg white that we've enjoyed for years. In this recipe, I will make the filling with Greek yogurt instead of mayonnaise. Apparently, there's options out there.
There's options. Everybody, you've got options.
So, number 4 on the list of food trends.
Yeah, in 73.
In 73, hamburger helper. Just blowing us off the blocks here. Yep, hamburger helper, that's what it is. And then a shout out to my brother-in-law. Number 8 on the list is Spam. The soda beverage, carbonated beverage, Tab. Do you remember Tab?
I do know, yeah.
It was a weird, how was...
It was like a cola,
yep.
Right? Yeah.
Different. Tab soda. Different than Coke. I had in the back of my mind it was in 2000 what? No. There. For practical purposes, the difference between Tab and Diet Coke is that they come in different colored cans.
So they're saying they're pretty similar. Or you'd say identical.
Okay, so Tab was a low-calorie soda.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Like there wasn't like Tab Light then. It was just Tab. Tab was already going to be a light or a diet.
Yeah.
Okay. That I didn't remember.
Okay.
I just remember seeing Tab.
So Tab was Coca-Cola's first foray into the diet soda market.
Oh.
Yeah.
So it's owned by Coke, though.
Uh-huh.
Oh. But they don't have Tab anymore.
No, it was discontinued after 57 years on the market, and fans of the drink will have it until the end of December to purchase. This is dated... I'm not finding. I suppose you got to go to the end of when this was published. But the answer is you can't find Tab.
Okay. Well, it's a good thing because I also wasn't searching for it, but but if there were people out there, maybe somebody's grieving the loss of Tab over the years. I mean, I know that there were things like Crystal Pepsi, that was a thing in the 90s. Yeah, so there was all kinds of stuff that was kind of those sodas over the years that have kind of, made its way and then made its way out.
Yeah. So, it was just a major thing for them to be able to push as a diet soda. And, for a brief period, it was the most popular diet soda in the United States. While some might think Tab was the first diet soda, that honor actually belongs to a beverage called NoCal. Hyman Kirsch in 1952, he wanted to create a soda for diabetics, so he used cyclamate, which was discovered in 1937. It's about 30 times sweeter than sugar, and it's not metabolized, making it ideal for people. So apparently this cyclamate, then was combined with another saccharin, and it took the metallic taste out of it. But that's what I remember about Tab. It had this really funky kind of little aftertaste thing that happened, and yeah.
Well, another popular 73, not in 1973, but apparently, I mean, and I've never really watched a lot, but The Big Bang Theory, the character Sheldon, who's like an astrophysicist or something like that.
Yeah.
Scientist, 73 was his favorite number. And it says that that Jim Parsons, the actor, was born in 73. This episode where he talks about the number 73 was the 73rd episode, and he often apparently wears a shirt with 73 on it. Now, somebody asked him then in the episode, apparently, why is 73 your favorite? And he says 73 is the 21st prime number. Its mirror is 37, is the 12th, right? And its mirror, 21, is the product of multiplying 7 and 3.
I love it.
And when you actually take it to its binary, so the binary is also a palindrome. So it's 1001001, and backwards it's the same exact thing.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah,
so,
I love it.
Yeah. So 73 apparently is a number that
it matters.
That matters.
You know, what's really interesting is, have you ever wondered if Blacklist might be like a show that foreshadows?
I haven't considered it, but
I'm like, so season 9 ripped out on Netflix, right? And
yeah, that's the new one that just came on Netflix.
Yeah, it's basically 2021.
All right.
And so, but yeah, they're dealing with like super chips from Taiwan and shortages and like all this stuff. Well, it just so happened that yesterday, which I will say, Amy's really enjoying listening to NPR on our commute now. Mm-hmm. So now we have something to talk about in common of the articles that we've heard. Yeah. Oh, I heard this the other day, or this today, and stuff.
Yeah.
But do you know that this is crazy because we talked about Quantum Leap.
Yeah.
They're in Chicago. Not only was there a notable math economist given the Nobel Peace Prize with Bernanke, but at the university, they are working on a quantum internet.
What does that even mean?
Dude, it is mind-blowing. They say that it's probably one of those things where like it's unhackable, and the interviewer was like, yeah, but bad players always figure out how to, and all this stuff. But it's sending information over particles that are smaller than an atom. Like parts of the particles.
Yeah.
And so apparently it's super fast, and they're like, yeah, and this sounds just really weird, but basically the information gets to exist in another place where that same thing is at the same time. It's crazy. And so then I'm watching Blacklist, and they're talking about that there's a technology in Taiwan that, even the smart people in the U.S. haven't figured out how to put this stuff.
Yeah.
But it ended up dealing with, one of the guys on the show was explaining, and it was like, yeah, they've figured out how to put this he goes, it's like 13 times smaller than a strand of hair. And like all of this information can be on these chips, and that's, anyway.
Wow.
Quantum internet. If you've never heard about that before,
I have not.
You've heard about it now.
Okay.
And so when you start talking about prime numbers, and you start getting into all of this, big science stuff.
Wow.
To prove that we're not good at math, I took 600, multiplied it times 6 in my head yesterday, and came up with 2,400. How did I do that?
I don't know.
You know what?
I mean, I know 6 times 6, so I'm assuming then you just add some zeros.
Yeah. It's been a weird week. So retailers, so 1973. I really like the number 73.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Welcome.
Yeah. Glad everybody you're here on this on this day of your listening.
Trailing into the MRI was invented by a team led by John Mallard.
In 73.
Yeah. Huh. The 110-story Sears Tower opened in Chicago.
So Sears was in 1973, and that was... So I think Hancock was first, right? And that was tall, and then Sears came out and said we're gonna wanna up that.
Back in 73, the average tuition at a 4-year public college was $358.
Wow.
I mean, you're talking about...
We talked about prices of...
$1.60.
Yeah.
I mean, minimum wage was $1.60. But, I mean, can you imagine getting a 4-year degree? Wow, for $358 a year.
Wow, that's incredible.
The Exorcist was the most popular film.
Oh, I didn't know that was 73.
Jonathan Livingston Seagull was the best-selling fiction book.
Don't know that.
The Sting won an Oscar for Best Picture.
The Sting.
Bonanza, Laugh-In, and Mission Impossible all ended their TV runs. Sporto fact, the Miami Dolphins were the Super Bowl champs. The Oakland Athletics won the World Series. I actually think I remember the Oakland A's winning that World Series. Yeah. It just so many, it just is really cool. I was listening to a girl on the radio. Again, there's NPR. And she has written a book and stuff, but just diving into detailed information about life that has been lived before. Yeah, it's something.
Yeah, so the Sting was Paul Newman, Robert Redford. Huh?
Oh, yeah. I remember the Sting.
Mm-hmm.
On a rerun being played on a flip channel TV.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so 2 grifters, as they call them, team up to pull the ultimate con. Yeah. All kinds of stuff in 73.
For the first time in U.S. history, women were allowed to serve on juries in all 50 states.
Oh, in 73.
In 73. Life expectancy at birth was 71.4 years.
Yeah.
Huh. Motorola engineer Martin Cooper invented the first handheld mobile phone. Yeah. Oh, J.R.R. Tolkien died too. He was the author of high fantasy works such as The Hobbit, The Lord of the Rings, and the Silmarillion. I have a terrible time reading that word. For the first time in the U.S., sales of vodka surpassed whiskey sales. Just a little...
Wow.
Yeah.
Is that still the case today?
Actually, this is interesting. I don't know.
Yeah.
Crock-pot costs $17.79. I think you can get one for less than that now.
I think so.
Yeah.
I mean, depending on the size, but yeah, I think the technology, because it got easier to build them, that they offer them cheaper.
Yeah. Airmail was 10 cents per ounce. First class stamp was 8 cents. And you could buy a 1973 Ford Galaxy 500 for $3,800. Whoa.
Whoa.
See, all the greats were playing back then, too. Popular artists from 73, Al Green, Aretha Franklin, and the very sexy Barry White. The Carpenters. Cut my teeth on the Carpenters. Diana Ross, Dawn, featuring Tony Orlando and Dawn.
Yeah.
Gladys Knight and the Pips.
Mm-hmm. That's good. They all. I mean, this is when they launched, or is this when?
No, they're just saying, hey, these are
significant.
The cool pop artists. Yeah. 1973. So, this podcast is brought to you by the year 1973. You see what we're going to be able to do with this for the rest of our life.
That's right.
The living, breathing, lively air that we do have to breathe, breath. We are going to equate it to. I mean, that's the cool thing. Just think, season 8 will be in the 80s. Season 9 will be in the 90s. Season 10 will be in 2010. Yeah. And then we have 2011, 2012, 2013, 2014, 2015. Yeah, I mean, that's going to roll for like a lot of seasons.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're going to hang out there for a while. We might play around with it.
Yeah. I think it's a good thing to play around with.
So what are you grappling with?
What am I grappling with?
It's a wrestling term.
Right.
Yeah.
It's true.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I still think, I mean, yeah, I'm kind of stumped by it. Like, I mean, I can probably go in like lots of different directions with things that I'm stumped over, but I mean, humanity sometimes I get stumped by. And it just a lot of that. I'm dealing with, going through and trying to help, people try to understand, a focus for themselves or, for their organizations.
Yeah.
Like, all right, how do we bring clarity to something that's muddied or, and I think that, so there's some of that's happening right now that I'm kind of going through and trying to figure out, you know, how best to be able to navigate that with others. Yeah. So.
Yeah, there's lots on your table.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's some of it. I'm still, I think I'm going to be finishing off that 12-hour walk book here shortly. I mean, I'm on the last couple of chapters, but, one that stood out was, even though, and it was something I think that we brought up, when we were talking about limited thinking, is that he finally, there was a chapter in there that he was talking about. And I think we were on this last, was like he was saying there's some things that you have to really listen to your, as he called it, listen to your gut, to know, like, should I be moving forward? And sometimes you'd say, nope, here is where I got to cut this off. And, And there, I mean, and he gave once again another kind of explorer thing, and he was climbing a K2 mountain, and
what's a K2?
Like it's apparently the most challenging mountains that you can
rating.
Yeah,
they give it.
And so up until that point, there was only like one person who had ever climbed a K2 mountain in the winter. Right, so we're talking about sub temperatures, and the dude's now trying to do this, and he's climbing the mountain. There's other, other people that are with him in this journey, and there's one night that there's a huge kind of like, I mean, it's like -50. There's people who were up on the mountain that somebody died, like a week before. Fell from the mountain, like skilled climbers, right?
Yeah.
And so now he's up there, and the storm kind of hits, and he's like, "What are we gonna do?"
Yeah.
And these people are now he's apparently on the side of a mountain. They are, there's a little ledge, and it's a place where they can stop for a moment. He has this little tent that he puts up. That's a 3-person tent. They've got people who don't have a tent. He's squeezing 7 people into a 3-person tent. And these other people are like, well, we're just going to go. And he's like, and here's the moment, right? What do I do? Do I keep going with these people? Do I say, no, this isn't good?
Yeah.
And he says he makes the decision and says, hey, I'm just not going to, I'm going to wait this out till morning, and I'm going to head back down. And he makes the decision and sticks with it. Those 3 people that chose to go, they didn't find their bodies until the summertime when it thawed out, and figured they didn't make it. So there's the part and this is like where he could say, hey, like I'm smarter than them. Or he just says, like, there was something in me that says I shouldn't be making this right now, and actually listen to it. So there's, I think, those moments that, like we talked about last week, where we're saying, like, the grand things, or the things that people, like, hey, I made this in winter, but what are you going to remember more? Like, I'm glad I didn't go.
Right.
I actually made the right decision.
Yeah.
But I think, as we even talked about then, what happens when life doesn't go right? Doesn't go as planned. What are we going to do with it?
Yeah, it's one of those things where that item was really on my mind today as I was getting around and getting ready. I mean, I was up at, gosh, I don't know, 6:30. We got, more people coming through the town. There was a couple came through this morning at 8 a.m.
Yeah.
Ugh. And then we were dealing with a language barrier, meaning that I didn't understand their language of origin, and they were broken with my language of origin. And so, I mean, like, at one point, the guy asked me, he's like, now, is this for sale or for rent? I'm like, really? That's how those are the cylinders we're firing on this morning.
Yeah.
The place is on Zillow under places to rent. Yeah.
Right.
And so, but yeah, it's like, how do you emotionally overcome when there are obstacles or barriers that are out of your control, and not just, throw your hands up and start turning circles and letting all the Tourette's that's inside of you come out. Whoa.
Yeah. So, and the question is like, so how do we handle, how do we deal?
Yeah.
There's something, roadblocks that get thrown up. What are we going to do with the roadblock?
Yeah.
I mean, and there's options for it, right? I mean, there's lots of different ways, like, hey, I'm going to act like the roadblock's not there.
Denial.
Right. Right. And still being like held back, but still acting like there's nothing. Like that is denial. Denial doesn't really help us. Denial saying, hey, or like your back is there's something wrong with your back. And you're like, no, nothing's wrong with my back. Well, there is something wrong with but if you're just refusing to be able to say there's something wrong, doesn't mean that there's something wrong. I mean that there's not something wrong, right? So my refusal to pay attention to it or to see it doesn't mean that it goes away.
Yeah, and oftentimes with a physical ailment, I mean, you're having to overcome the pain anyway, so it doesn't really let you not have to face it.
Right.
Like if you got a problem with your back, there's going to be only so many things that can be accomplished.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's the same thing I even think about with, cars, vehicles, right? So a check engine light comes on. You're like, nope, doesn't seem like anything's wrong. No, I'm good, right? I don't hear anything. I don't feel it when I'm driving, so nothing must be wrong.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I understand for streamlining vehicles that they've moved. It's time to change your oil from an oil light to a check engine.
Right.
And, usually if your technology is new enough, after about 3,000 to 5,000 miles, you're going to figure out that the check engine light is really, it's time to get your oil changed. Yeah. But.
Right. But there's, those warning signs. There's something that's going wrong here. Like, what are you going to do with it?
Yeah, like the doohickey filter.
Right.
I mean, and so when you go in, then if you're going into a place where you haven't been in before, then do you trust them when they charge you $750 for your doohickey filter? They're like, these things just wear out,
Right. I mean, and that's where, like, especially in the vehicle realm, or like, you're always looking for somebody that you can trust. Like, I can, when you have an established relationship, you're like, I hear what you're saying, and I can also trust you because what you've said in the past has been true.
Yeah.
When you go to somebody new and they're like, oh, the whole thing's gonna fall apart in a day. Like, oh. Are you sure? Doesn't seem like it to me.
Yeah.
Like I'm going to have a harder time trusting that.
So,
right.
In the Element,
the
vehicle I'm currently driving, it had this rattle, thing. Every time you go over like a pothole or whatever, it rattled. So I took it to one of my favorite places in Des Moines, Terry's Muffler. And they do automotive and older vehicles, no problem. And stuff. And so she comes out and she's like, yeah, your sway bar that goes between the tires, like the rubber bushings are all wore out. And so that rattle is that bar just bouncing every time you go over the thing. I'm like, oh, wow. She goes, yeah, that happened to mine. They just cut it off. She goes, it's just there for stability, like if you're really going, like turning corners at high speeds or something like that. I'm like, oh. She goes, so if you want, she goes, we can't fix it because we'd have to cut off the bolts, put on the new ones, and then we'd have to have the part and, basically rebuild this thing. Or we just cut it off and you can just continue driving it as you are. I'm like, and it won't rattle? And she's like, yeah, it won't rattle. She goes, at high speeds, I'd be careful about turning corners. I'm like, well, when I turn a corner, I'm not doing it at high speed anyway.
Right.
Yeah. So that cost $25. But I mean, so then I went this vehicle has its issues. I went to get the wheels aligned. They're like, yeah, we can't align this car. It's not off that much. I'm like, it's not. Why? Because my eye can visually see, like just with without any straight line, that there's a tilt on one of the tires.
Right.
They're like, yeah, the thing that we have to loosen to be able to adjust it is all rusted, and we don't have the ability to like cut that off, rebuild, and do that whole thing. I was like, oh, so basically you're telling me it's time to throw the car away. He's like, or just buy new tires when they wear out. I'm like, which has been happening. But, I mean, 193 or 97,000 miles on a vehicle that's paid for, I mean, you know, you got some distance out of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not bad.
I won't be selling it to anyone that I consider a friend.
Because they're going to come back and knock on your door.
or they might turn corners fast. Blip. Yeah.
Oh, man. Oh, wow. Yeah, so when you're facing something and, you know, so what are the other options? We've gone over denial, right?
Yeah, I just look at what, or would ask the question of the severity of the difficulty of, or the barrier.
Mm-hmm.
You know, does venting create a solution? Or is that just what's necessary for you to navigate the difficulty?
Yeah.
Or when it looks like, you know, I mean, like, where's the mindset come in that, well, if life throws you lemons, you just make lemonade. Well, what if you can't afford any sugar? You know? And so, you know, I mean, but is there a part of just venting that does help? Well, yeah, because then, I mean, I'm pretty sure people have, you know, held things in so much that they've combusted into flames over.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think people pay a lot of money to get to finally be able to say, this makes me very angry.
Right.
You know, my tendency is not to get loud and to yell. I'm a withdraw. I go inside of myself and more shut down.
Yeah.
Than an expression. I'm planned enough in the words that I use that there's often things that I would really like to say that I'm like, no, I'm not saying anything because nothing good will come from the words that I'm going to share at this time. I mean, you know, and so then, you know, people are like, well, hey, what's the matter with you? I'm like, well, you know what? I guess what I'm getting out of this conversation is I have a new line of defense and be like, you know, I've got a barrier in my life. I've got something that is creating difficulty for me to emotionally grasp what's going on. So my quotient is so low that my ability to handle it is not going to be good if I say anything out loud.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So retreating, it's not necessarily a denial.
No,
but it is saying I don't want to go this way. I'm still like, return inward.
It's withdrawing. Like one of the things that I can really, and I understand it's TV, okay, which is not real life. But you know, when you're watching Suits, there are a lot of different relational engagements that are going on.
Yeah.
But I really can appreciate when people stand up and they're, you know, willing to bat things around and be able to say, hey, you know, here's what's going on. But, you know, it just depends on the relationship.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you know, and that's where I just move into a skill set of assessment and assess, is the person at a place to receive what I have to say?
Mm-hmm.
If the answer is no, then I don't say anything. Just like some people listening could argue and say, but that person really needs to hear what you're thinking. Yeah, but if all it's going to do is lead on to a greater point of like it's a D word that I'm looking for. Like if it just means that it's going to continue into like more not being able to work through stuff on a together point, then why say what's on your mind? Like, do we really have the right to say everything that's on our mind? Is it beneficial in all situations to share? Like, you have the right to share what's on your mind. Oh, okay. And so while you reserve that for you, I reserve the right that I don't have to share everything that's on my mind.
Right. I mean, and I think it's
it's
not always helpful.
Well, and
right. I mean, that's where I'd say the reason why I would be a little bit more reserved in all of that too.
And it's not passive aggressive. Like if people are like, "Oh, well, you're just being passive aggressive." Well, aggression means like that you're taking it out or whatever. But
right.
Yeah.
Yikes.
Withdrawing to the caverns of my mind. That seems like it's a song from the 70s.
It does sound like a song.
Yeah. Yeah, there is, it's the song out there.
Oh, all right.
Yeah, Caverns of My Mind lyrics.
Who's the artist?
Huh. Probably the one I know is Alan Whitfield, I think. And I don't know why Jeremy Riddle gets to throw... Yeah. I'll blow through the caverns of my soul. Yeah. Anyway. Distraction.
It is.
That's another way that you can take care of obstacles.
Yeah.
The art of distraction.
The art of distraction.
Changing the subject.
This is not happening over here.
These are not the drones.
These are not the drones
you're looking for. Yeah, the art of distraction. It's a subtle shift. You can't make it so that, all of a sudden the topic is another topic, but it is, hey, maybe this topic has been beaten to death. Mm-hmm. So how about we talk about a different topic?
Right.
When people are of two different opinions about one topic, part of the art of building the bridge is moving into a place to pick a topic that you can discuss. Mm-hmm. Even though you don't have to agree about it,
right.
But can you move there? So the mindset of being able to work through, I think in my head there's a little bit of Tetris going on.
Yeah.
On prioritizations of when quote unquote, when things aren't going your way. Mm-hmm. Is this life or death?
Yeah.
Things aren't going your way. To me, that would be one of those high priorities that, if this is a life or death thing and it's not going your way, you need to get to it and figure out, what's going on, or is this life's not going my way, everyone irritates the shit out of me.
Right.
You alluded to earlier the, humanity.
Right.
Quote unquote. I'm doing air quotes on everything right now.
Right.
So, I use as a barometer that if everyone around me is irritating me, I'm probably the person with the problem. If everyone is.
Yeah.
I mean, how did the stars align? We were talking about a 50-year cycle earlier. How did the stars align that everyone in your circle of life is just irritating, and everyone else is all at fault?
Right.
So then it's like, well, what do you do? Is the reason why you're irritated? I get irritated when people tell me what to do.
Like anybody?
Just everybody. Me taking direction from other people, and that's just a complete point of arrogance on why I would feel that I would be omniscient in such a way. Big word, sorry.
All-knowing.
All-knowing. Yeah. Why would I be all-knowing in all, And then it's indicting, because at what point, if I'm going to love others as an example of how others should be loved, then how am I not willing to take instruction or direction from others who are needing help, and which is totally different than, I love this language because it's different than micromanagement. It's not like, oh, here's a task and you have to do it this way. Well, how about if I have to do it this way, you just do it?
Yeah.
I mean, kind of.
Well, I mean, that's the reason why, like, the instruction thing is like, so if you think you can do it better, then you go ahead.
Right. Why am I doing this?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. But
I mean, so I can get there's part of that, but yeah.
Maybe this is just a confession of that I very easily can have a bad attitude. I mean, it just, and then, for the people around, like walking on eggshells is a colloquialism.
Yeah.
I mean, like, do you set people off walking on eggshells because, they don't know if they're going to say something that, that's going to set you off and put you in a bad mood or whatever, But then I find that there are times in my life that when I do open my mouth and I use my words, it doesn't matter what I say, it's not right. I mean, like, there's that so, like, I just jump into that. Our crux of the question is, like, when things don't seem to be going your way, what part in a self-awareness learning curve, are you at being able to look in the mirror, identify, and, like, a question that runs through my mind often when it comes to conflict and stuff is, how badly do I need to be right about this?
Yeah.
Or what is motivating me that I have to be right about this? And then moving along the way, what are my motives in this situation? And, usually that's where, by holding your words, you're able to move into an attitudinal self-correction that.
So I think when we start, things aren't going my way, even if it's a consistent, then there's a process of evaluating that you need to go into. And I think that was the good thing that you pointed out, is you're saying, so when in one of the first questions, like, is this life-threatening? If it is, like, those are going to be some immediate things that need to happen in your evaluation.
Yeah.
If it's not life-threatening, but it's just kind of like a whole bunch of just annoying things that are just piling against me.
Right.
Then you have, then there's another set of questions.
Like the Peterson Overpass construction that has been going on for 3 months.
Right.
My commute dropped in half since they took the cones out. I mean, it was taking me 45 minutes, 50 minutes sometime in the commute. Now I'm here in 25 minutes. Well, that's relief.
Right.
But, I mean, it was a difficulty that I faced, and it was annoying, So, things weren't going my way on my commute.
Yeah.
That's an example.
Right.
You know how fun it is to keep a house clean for showings when you're trying to sublet?
I wouldn't enjoy that.
Negative. Yeah. And then you flip out and it's like, but then, like it's in that self-awareness of, okay, so am I feeding myself? Am I taking care of myself? Am I getting rest? Am I, all that while it's a cloudy day and raining. Mm-hmm. And I'd rather be down at the beach picking stones. Or, just.
Right. But so there's lots of things that you would be looking at, like and that maybe that is the issue. Maybe it's the expectation. Like, this is what I would rather do than this. Like, so this is like, did something get in the way? Yes. Like, and this is a thing that I'd rather not be doing.
Well, how many
I'd
people
rather be doing this? There's an expectation of me doing this today.
And how many people would you have to talk to before somebody says, yes, we want this place, we fill out the application, and you go and do it, right? Mm-hmm. And maybe that's the kind of, I think that's the mental torture on the show alone. We've talked about that show. But one of the mental tortures is you don't know when everybody else is going to tap out. So you're in this thing to survive, but you don't know when there's an end. And I think that becomes the how long are things not going to go my way mentality that can creep into the human mind when it's just one more thing that doesn't seem to be going well. How do you get over that, or how do you navigate through that and come out or out from that thought process that's sucking your energy down into something of vibrancy, even in going through difficulty. Like just recently, walked into the studio, one of my rock tumblers was froze up. Oh. Well, that could have been a fire. I mean, thankfully it wasn't, right? So now I got to think through all of this stuff, on like, gosh, but I never intended not to be. I never intended to be gone from the studio for 5 days. Right. Except you got to keep a house clean and show it to people who are coming on their schedule. Right. And so there. And again, is it that big of a deal? No, it's not that big of a deal. And so, am I going to bitch about it? Well, apparently today on the podcast, the answer is yes. But. And then I think a really great question to ask oneself, am I saying yes to the things that I should be saying no to because I'm not making space for the things that I need to, right? And the things that I need to do are more enjoyable than the things that I usually say yes to. Uh-huh. So it's just interesting. But I caught myself in a kind of a headspace spin of, what are you going to be happy with? Like you can get yourself into a catch-22 of, well, you're not happy with this responsibility here, and you're not happy with this responsibility over here, responsibility A, responsibility B. Oh, is the point you're just not a happy person? Which is an attitude adjustment. It just comes down to you got to adjust. Mm-hmm.
And then we go back to happiness is a myth.
One of my favorite episodes that you came up with. Yeah, absolutely. There's a gem there. Go back and listen to it.
Right. Yeah, so I think even then, then you say, so after the evaluation of, is this life-threatening? No. Let's move into this then. So I think that looking through the process and trying to say, then how do I evaluate this? And I think the question is like, so what is the emotion that's coming up? Right? So you talked about an emotion of frustration or anger, right? And you're like, so what's at the root of this emotion? Do I need to feel this? Right. Or is this out of place?
Well, and that's another thing that I definitely, in my navigation of humanity and living, that is definitely one of the areas that I ask myself, is this worth the emotional energy being spent? But, being a guy who's cynical, I can really get to know easy. It's a really short walk for me. So people will on the outside say, gosh, you're so calm, cool, and collected. And I'm like, well, I know I've said this before in the podcast. I mean, we are in season 7. So, I mean, we're working towards like 70, 140 videos total, 70. I mean, that's what will be the milestone is we'll hit 70 of these videos. And I know I've said, yeah, you don't know what's going on internally. I can be Rage Against the Machine, angry and still, come out, but it's in difficult situations that what I'm assessing, all right, solution seeking. How can I create an option for how this can resolve and what's needed in the moment? And I think, being aware into that point just really helps out in navigating difficulties. But when life throws you things, then what are you going to do with that? And I think it comes back to maybe asking the question, what lesson am I supposed to learn now? Maybe that's the question.
Yeah, and I would say even being open to learning a lesson.
Yeah.
I mean, because that's, I think, for me, sometimes I get stuck in that. Like you mentioned, like somebody saying like, hey, you should do it this, like do it like this and you're like, shut up.
Right.
Like, I don't need to hear from you.
Yeah.
But so like, that's the part, like, and if there's a constant, and a lot of times, as you mentioned, the constant would be us, right? And so we need to then say, so why is it that I'm so, I'm offended or angry or frustrated when somebody's trying to do that?
Personally, yeah, it's how the other person is approaching.
Yeah.
And so it's definitely in the approach. And yeah, I mean, Amy is very quick to point out to me that you and I have known each other long enough, and we've spent enough time with each other, focused on different, whether it's projects or things that we're working towards, or and all that stuff. I mean, not only are we kindred, but there's a part where we've known each other long enough that we know each other, and so like even in a situation, I just pose something. I'm going to let you think about it. I'm not saying, like, it's not affecting our relationship.
Right.
And stuff. But another understanding that's coming with that is I trust your process in your head for you to think it through. And one of two things will either happen. You'll either make a decision on what I proposed, or you'll come back with other questions. And it'll navigate. It's not like, oh, this is what I want you to do. And an edict comes down from some entitled position, Right. And I think that that's when people walk into your life and have an entitled attitude,
right,
that's irritating. When or it's done with like, hey, you need to do this. Oh, do I? How about but then if I'm being irritated at all the people that I'm interacting with, then I have to come back to what's my attitude about.
Sure. Yeah, and I agree. Then I mean, it does go back to relationship and the strength, right? Because you're like, hey, I trust you. I know what you're saying is like, and that's the same way. I mean, like, so if we're doing, a project or whatever, like, and I'm not the expert on it, like, of course I'm not going to be like, hey, Steve, what do you think? Like, we need to do this. Like, and you're like, well, wait a sec. I mean, like,
And
I don't do that anyways.
Right.
But I mean, but if it's done, like, well, why? Like, so I know what I'm doing here. We trust this is the process.
Yeah.
We're going to carry it out. And if there's a barrier, then we already know we're going to be open to hearing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and we're going to process through it. So,
yeah. And me, I personally this is where my Enneagram 9 comes out, is I'm like, oh, you have the ability to do that? Go right ahead, and I mean, like, if there's problems along the way, I still go back to a major project that I did in the studio was these shelves on this standing desk that I have.
Yeah.
In my initial, I mean, literally, you can't imagine how 5 inches can make a big difference. Mm-hmm. I had to recut the boards because they couldn't be as long as they were before.
Yeah.
But, I mean, just sliding that shelving back 5 inches for an inset versus, it was poor design.
Yeah.
But it was my design that I was able to correct later. I mean, like,
I mean, and it was, you didn't say, oh, well, like, I mean, like, I am a terrible, person for making this design. No, you're like, oh.
Well, I did say,
let's flex.
I'm an idiot.
Turn.
And I'm like, why didn't I do it this way?
Sure.
And
I mean, and we can be worse critics of ourselves, right?
So. Well, and that's where I think, again, back to the blacklist. Aram spent his grandparents' inheritance at the age of 10 to go to therapy. And he was telling his coworker, the Asian girl, he's like, after all that therapy, I finally got down to the place where it wasn't about, it was me moving from, I know the dark parts of me that I hate, but I have to move past that to move into the place that I will accept myself and love myself. And with the understanding of, I have my own failings. And when you bring up that part about we're our own worst critics, I think that there is something about how do you move into loving others when the work that you may need to do is learn to love yourself. I think that love is not stagnant. I think love is a lot like water. There's ebbs and there's flows.
Yeah.
But there's motion and direction for love. But love is also there's this beautiful thing about that it's living and breathing and it grows. Mm-hmm. And within our humanity, love carries on different nuances, different, you can call it different spirits of love. Mm-hmm. But I think that the cool thing is that I believe that's true within ourselves too.
Yeah. And
so being able to be like, hey, I'm not being easy to love right now. Mm-hmm. And even just moving into an attitude of gratitude, I'll go Hallmark on this shit. But moving into an attitude of gratitude for those around, gosh, you can get a lot further with an apology. I'm thinking of the withdrawing, Steve. Mm-hmm. I need to be careful with my words because anything that I could say could be used against me in the court of law. Or the words that I'm going to say aren't going to be helpful. Mm-hmm. But by moving into just even a declaration, which you and I've covered, that we call it a confession, but it's a declaration of, hey, you know what? I see in me that I'm not being easy to love. Mm-hmm. I'm sorry for that, but I want to say thank you for loving me. Mm-hmm. And I want you to know, I recognize that how you're acting may not feel like love to me, but actually what you're doing is you are loving me. And right. And I want to acknowledge that, and I'm Mr. quote see, air quotes. Today, I air quotes. I'm Mr. Disclaimer anyway. Mm-hmm. So oftentimes in conversation, I'll be the last to speak because I'll gather the information. Mm-hmm. It also gives me time to process because my thinker isn't as sharp as it used to be. But in that processing, then I'll usually start anything that I'll say in those difficult times with, hey, this might be something you want to pick up or you don't have to. I'm basically saying I'm going to speak my piece. In my humble opinion, this is what I see. And the other part too is the weight of the topic. And so, based on the topic, depending on how much credibility you've established over the years in relationship, can allow you to have weight in what you're saying and how you're saying it in those things. But, I think if you're frustrated with a barrier or, life's not going my way, then I think a conversation moves to, okay, life's not going your way. Are we having a pity party here? You just need me to commiserate in your misery? Because misery does love company.
It's true.
And so then the question to ask is, am I pouring gasoline on a misery party? Mm-hmm. We hear it a lot from people. They're like, yeah, I just need you to listen. I don't need you to fix. Okay, cool. So I'll listen.
Yeah.
But then there's also a declaration of, hey, by the way, I've listened a lot. And if what I'm listening to are the same recycles of difficulty, then we're going to have to join Albert Einstein and create a break from the motion of insanity.
Yeah.
Doing the same thing over and over and over again. So, that's...
And I think that part of... there's so many things that can be wrapped up in this. Like past trauma can affect how you're going to view the rest of the world too.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So those past traumas can then also say like, I'm only seeing the things that are going wrong. Yeah. I'm not looking at the, and that's where the attitude of gratitude comes. Like, I'm not looking at that side. I'm only seeing the barrier. I'm only seeing the limitations. I'm only seeing because that vision is blocked.
Yeah.
And so what do? Then we're just like, we become Eeyore, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And so that's where, when I was bringing up the art of distraction, mm-hmm. That is where, even though it may seem like it's a topic change, but if people are paying attention to what's going on, what it's doing is it's shifting from the focal point of what's captured the person you're interacting with.
Yeah.
And maybe the word is redirection. Mm-hmm. To redirect into, and for there to be a motion of that moves to another place of observation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, there's good takeaways there. Yeah. And the thing is we're just thinking out loud here. So as you're listening, and I think the other part that in between the lines, what you can hear is, well, they're talking about it because, oh yeah, we face barriers in our lives.
Right.
And so, there are times when life doesn't go our way. And this is the anti-social media view into cut daisies and unicorns.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think that when we are coming across a setback, we're coming across, we shouldn't, even if, and to evaluate, Like, we don't see this as a reflection of my, like this is me, right? I mean, kind of removing the Eeyore, right? Instead of seeing us as like, oh, there's like that, or what was the Peanuts character with the cloud kind of, or
Pigpen?
right? Or yeah, maybe that. But I mean, it's like something that's following you, like you're identifying that as it's you, and we have to be able to say, this setback is not a reflection of me. It is something that I need to deal with. It is something I need to try to face, evaluate, go through the process, but it's not me. Like, I'm not a failure, but there is a failure.
Right.
I'm not this setback. It is a setback, though.
Yeah.
So I think that, not taking it, maybe I say, no, don't take it personally.
Yeah.
Like, it's now your identity. You're the setback person. You're the person that there's always going to be a setback.
Yeah.
I don't know. So.
Yeah. Well, and I do think that that's where it is important to be able to, and whether you're journaling, whether you're writing stuff down, if you have found yourself in a place where you're grinding, and just ask the question: what one little thing can you do to bump you out of the same cycle?
Yeah.
And it may be you just need more rest.
Could be.
It may be that, quite frankly, maybe you just need a nice meal, instead of being on the go.
Yeah. It
could be that, you should probably go to bed earlier and wake up earlier, or... if you can't get your rest on the morning side, then that means you need to back it up on the night side, And I know for young families, there's people listening here who have little kids and tinies and, new babies being born and all that stuff. And just remember, this is a season. Mm-hmm. It's a season. And the season changes. Just like, even though the sun is shining and it's beautiful, it's still chilly because the season is changing. Right. We have those reminders, and it is beautifully placed so that we can be able to come into those reminders and see those reminders to bump us, and but move into conversations quickly that matter in regards to, hey, this is going on in me. Mm-hmm. And if you don't have the strength to do that, then you need to go to a professional because they'll have the strength to pull it out of you.
Yeah.
I don't know how else to turn that around.
Yeah. I like what you said. Look for the lessons. Look for the lessons to learn.
And that, to me, that's where documentation, just like when we were going through 1973.
Right.
There's documentation of what took place and what was there. It's a historic record.
Right.
That's where, when you get to, if you're writing things down, write things down, and that may be too old school for your mind to grapulate. That's a new word.
Grapulate. That might be a combination of two words, but I think everybody gets the meaning.
Yeah, and so, hey, if there's a great app where you can talk into your phone and it converts your memos into written form.
Into text, yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And there's actually an app for the iPad where you can take and you can write, and it converts it
to speech.
No, it converts it to typed form. So maybe you're enough in technology where you're like, I don't want to buy a journal. I write my notes in OneNote or Evernote or Bamboo is another one. There's an actual app where if you write, but to me, like, if I want to capture the essence of me telling a story, for me to talk it and tell the story, and then it's converted to type.
Yeah.
You know, and that could be an interaction with an artificial intelligence that you may enjoy.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, but document it, write it down. If you feel like there's so many things that aren't going your way, write them all down. And then as you're going to go back and take a look, maybe you do, maybe you just take 15 minutes every week to say what obstacles are weighing me down. You write them down. Then the next week you do the same thing, but you go back and you check your list from before. What's worked itself out? And it gives you a documentation of, I have found this. This is what I thought to be true. This is what I'm seeing and I believe to be true. Now I'm going back based on this. Oh, this worked out this way, and this worked out this way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it almost gives it, I mean, it gives it less power over you. I think, when it's out.
Absolutely.
So,
and me personally, I'm a firm believer that if you want to get it out of the loop in your head, get it onto something that's outside of your head. Because that looping, you know, and the way the mind works, your head can be your enemy.
Right. For sure.
In that, you know. But yeah, that's where it's at.
That's where it's at. Everybody.
Bird is the word. Well, we hope that you enjoyed this episode 73.
It's a journey.
Season 7, episode 3. Yeah.
73, everybody. 73.
We're going to go out the door with number 74. But this week it's 73.
Right.
And
we're not turning the page yet.
Nope, because we actually got to get this page published.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. So lots of things to consider today.
You know what I was thinking about?
Yeah.
We always have ideas we never do. Right?
We do.
I have more ideas than I have life to live. So, but I was thinking, you know what would be cool is, speaking of artificial intelligence.
Yeah.
We could take our podcasts from the last 2 years, and we could take the audio, and we could throw the audio into typed, and we could do a Cut Daisies and Unicorns book.
We could.
All the work's done, dude.
It is.
We've been doing this, and then we could go through the content and sort the content, and then based on that, come up with like a quick reference guide to the galaxy of Cut Daisies and Unicorns.
It's a good idea.
And
coming soon.
Well, it's going to take a bit. Yeah, because when you're looking at, oh my gosh, yeah, we haven't hit 70, so it's 60. Yeah, we're at 63 things. But that would be interesting.
Yeah.
I wonder if it types my swear words or it just puts in like little little symbols for it. Oh man.
Yeah. I have a feeling that it would probably still publish or put it down, but I don't know how advanced the AI is.
Well, I just would need the AI. I would have to interview a different AI.
That's true.
For such work. Yet to be done.
All right, everybody. Things to consider, things to work through.
Oh, I got a whole list of projects.
Life is not going well.
A whole list of ideas that will never come to life. And somebody could say, well, that's being negative. I'm like, no, I'm working hard on some other ones that are coming to life. But this one, I'm telling you, that's a good idea.
Yep.
Because we can get somebody else to do it. The artificial intelligence is joining our team. Yeah.
All right, so be good to yourself, be good to others.
And take a look at those obstacles or barriers as an opportunity for self-growth. And when self-growth seems to be too much work,
take a nap. That is the closing words of wisdom.
Hey, it's Sunday night when you're listening to this, so just take a nap. Mm-hmm. It'd be called night sleep.
This would be an overnight nap.
Just going to bed. All right, later.
See ya.